Hi, welcome to today's analysis. Today I'm discussing Air Vice Marshal Ibokette IBAS and budget presentation. Air Vice Marshal Ibokette IBAS and budget presentation. It's no longer news that Ibokette IBAS is the sole administrator administering River States. Recall that not long ago, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, appointed him as the sole administrator and then went further to seek the approval of the Nigerian Senate. The Senate approved his appointment. The House of Representatives also approved his appointment. And he has been on the saddle for some weeks now. Now, his appointment has raised a lot of dust in the country, a lot of legal issues. Is he recognized under the Constitution of Nigeria? Under what provision of the Constitution does the president have the power to suspend an elected governor and replace him with a sole administrator? Lots of questions. The questions are still being asked till today. But the fact remains that he has been given the mandate by the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, acting in conjunction with the National Assembly, for him to preside over the affairs of River State as of today. Now, the question is, can he spend money without appropriation? For the period of time he has stayed so far in office, has he spent money at all? Does the law allow him to spend money without appropriation? The answer is no. He doesn't have the power to spend even 1 naira or 1 kobo of public funds without appropriation. So, but he doesn't have a budget. And he doesn't have the House of Assembly to approve budget for him. And his position under the Constitution is even questionable. So how does he navigate? Can he continue that way? The answer is no. He has to present budgets. It takes us to the question, what is the section of the Constitution that talks about budgets for the states? I take it to section 121 of the Constitution, sub 1. So come with me to that section. It says, the governor, underline governor, shall cause to be prepared and laid before the House of Assembly, governor, House of Assembly, at any time before the commencement of each fiscal year, estimates of the revenues and expenditure of the states for the next following fiscal year. So you can see this section. This section talks about governor. He doesn't talk about sole administrator. This section talks about House of Assembly. But as we speak, there is no House of Assembly in River State, following their suspension by the president and the concurrence of the suspension by the National Assembly, right? So what should be the situation now? No governor, no House of Assembly. So what will happen to budgeting? What will happen to appropriation? Section 121 sub 2 of the Constitution goes ahead to say that the estimates shall be broken into subheads and presented by way of a bill to be known as appropriation bill. Normally, when appropriation bill is presented to the House of Assembly, it is deliberated upon. If they agree with the bill, they pass it into law, they sign it, and then the governor of the state also signs, giving himself, through the instrumentality of the law, the authorization for him to spend public funds. So, Ibokette IBAS, as a sole administrator of River States, does not have the power to spend money without appropriation. So for whatever it is, let us categorize him, let us bring his stay in River State under this. Let's call him governor, right? He's a sole administrator, so he takes the shoes of the governor. He wears the shoes of the governor. Now there is no state House of Assembly. So how does he navigate? How does he deal with this compulsory provision of the Constitution that says that the governor must present a budget before the State House of Assembly? It creates a very serious situation for him. It creates a very serious constitutional situation even for Nigeria as a country. But let's assume that he is the governor. Let's just give him the nomenclature of legality, okay? For whatever it is, we give him the nomenclature of legality. Now, whatever the nomenclature, Ibokette IBAS commits an offense if he spends without appropriation. He commits an offense. Don't forget that Vice Marshal Ibokette IBAS has no immunity under the Constitution. His appointment is even something that surprises the Constitution. His appointment is questionable. His status to preside over the affairs of a state in a democracy is already a debatable issue currently in this country. But for whatever it is, right? He doesn't have immunity as a sole administrator. Immunity is only available to a democratically elected governor. So he has to find a way and have a budget. He just has to find a way and have a budget. Where will he go to in the situation? I take you to section 14 sub 4 of the Constitution. This appears to give him a lifeline. This section of the Constitution appears to give him a lifeline and gives him direction on where to go to in this very difficult situation, constitutional situation that Rivers State has found itself. And what does that section say? 11 sub 4 of the Constitution. It says, at any time when any House of Assembly of a state is unable to perform its functions by reason of the situation prevailing in that state, the National Assembly may make such law for the peace, order, and good government of the states with respect to matters on which the House of Assembly may make laws until such time that the House of Assembly is able to resume its functions. It goes on to say, any such laws enacted by the National Assembly pursuant to this section shall have effect as if they were laws enacted by the State House of Assembly. So this is the section that gives Ibokette IBAS the lifeline. And by this section, he can now take his budget, present it to the National Assembly. So his communication will now be to the National Assembly. A state governor usually writes to the State House of Assembly to ask for a date for him to come present budget. So what Ibokette IBAS is expected to do now by this section of the Constitution is for him to make an official communication to the National Assembly and tell the National Assembly to give him a date for him to come present a budget showing the estimates for expenditure in Rivers State, talking about how he's going to generate the money, internally generated revenue, and also money from the Consolidated Revenue Fund, and also money from allocation accruing to Rivers State as an oil-rich state. So this is the section of the Constitution, section 11 sub 4, that gives him the lifeline to go to the National Assembly in the absence of the Rivers State House of Assembly. You know, Martin and co, they have been suspended by the president following the proclamation. The governor was suspended. The House of Assembly was suspended. So there are no institutions for compliance with section 121 of the Constitution that talks about presentation of the budget estimate to the House of Assembly by the governor. These two institutions, the governor and the State House of Assembly, having been suspended, section 11 sub 4 gives Ibokette IBAS the lifeline to be able to take his budget estimate to the National Assembly for approval. Now, what is the way forward? I must say that the situation in Rivers State, and I say this as a lawyer that has had the opportunity of taking lectures on the Constitution in class. I've also had the opportunity of using the Constitution in my day-to-day practice in courts for interpretation of sections. My take is that what's going on in Rivers State surprises even the Constitution itself, because the Constitution has not provided for the office of sole administrator. This argument has been taken by several persons. And that's why when you see the, the spokespersons of government of the Federation of Nigeria, watch their lips whether they are going to mention any particular section of the Constitution that gives the right for the appointment of a sole administrator. You are not going to see it because it does not exist. But this is where Rivers State is, right? So what's the way forward? Number one, IBAS should avoid spending without appropriation. Please, sir, do not spend without appropriation, because after your tenure, you may be called to account. Note that you do not have immunity. Section 308 of the Constitution, talking about immunity, talks about immunity for presidents and governors. Sir, you are not a governor, and therefore you are not covered by immunity. And therefore, you should avoid spending without appropriation, sir. Number two, IBAS should approach the National Assembly as quickly as possible. It should leverage on section 14 sub 4, section 11 sub 4 of the Constitution and start to run to the National Assembly, present his budget estimates. Before you pay the next salary to civil servants in Rivers State, sir, you need to go to the National Assembly to get approval before you can lawfully spend going under section 11 sub 4 of the Constitution. Number three, my way forward, number three is normalcy should return to Rivers as soon as possible. Constitutional democracy should return to Rivers State. It's one of the states in Nigeria recognized by the Constitution, and therefore everything that needs to happen in Rivers State must be in line with the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Since Nigeria is practicing democracy, the only way we can give meaning to the Constitution is to implement only that which is recognized by the Constitution. To Vice Marshal Ibokette IBAS, I have said very clearly, sir, you need to have a budget before you can continue spending. While the argument continues about the legitimacy or the legality of your appointment and the suspension of the governor of Rivers State, the fact now is that you are the person saddled with the responsibility of signing approvals, making financial approvals for Rivers State, and the law would require that you get a budget to be able to do all that lawfully as soon as possible. What's your take about the situation in Rivers State? Is it something that should be implemented in another state? Is it something that Nigeria should never try again? What's your take? How about presentation of the budget? What's your take about it? Drop your comment on the comment section so that together we can also learn from you and continue the conversation as much as possible. Remember to subscribe to the channel for us to have a bigger family for interesting discussions. Many thanks.